Hey, what's going on, guys? Indy here with Ultimate 2 Reviews. Well, thanks for Lasfit for sponsoring the channel here and sponsoring this Tacoma build, which is absolutely fantastic. And so they actually have a LED lighting upgrade kit for the first gen Tacoma, which I was actually pretty surprised they did. Um, Parts are pretty easy to find for the Tacoma, relatively. The only trick I've been running into with this whole video series is I've got a two-wheel drive, and the majority of the parts are for four-wheel drive. I'm guessing because obviously those are more popular. Those are also probably surviving at a lot better rate than the two-wheel drives, because you got a two-wheel drive, you're probably just like, hey, I need to keep maintaining it, or just let it go to the scrapyard. So the four-wheel drives are definitely staying a lot more, popular. So of course there's more of them out there. But anyways, though, the LED lighting kit will work with either one. And if you go to Advanced Auto Parts, then they ask you, yeah, I need a lighting kit, two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. That is classic. Here's what the truck looks like before we put the kit in. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. This thing is a 25-year-old Tacoma. It's a 2000, almost 200,000 miles. It's got 197,000 on it now, and I would assume by now we're probably on. There's no way it's original headlights. There's no way. There's no way. Probably on the second, third, or fourth set of headlights here, so that's to be expected, honestly, at that point. But man, look at this packaging. That is awesome. I'm like, is this a lightsaber or is this a lighting kit here? So let's see what we've got here. Should be pretty plug and play. Now, I've done a couple of these in the past, but nothing on this Tacoma. So, of course, most modern cars are not as simple to do. So, you got the integrated LEDs. They're entirely sealed systems. Both my Rams are that way, and they are definitely not too fun to kind of get going here. So we got a little cooling. Oh, we got a cooling fan in the back here. All right, that'll be sweet. So let's pop the hood on the truck and see how hard it is to install these. But yeah, the build quality of this thing seems fantastic right out of the box. I like that braided cable on there, nice fan in there. Well, let's pop the hood and see how hard this thing is to install. All right, so first headlight is right here. Pop it open the instructions. Seems relatively simple here. So of course we are going to be pulling up in the socket, install and fix the socket, insert the lamp in the direction of the arrow, rotate it 45 degrees, and then of course, lighting pattern is adjustable. That's nice. Connecting the power line with the original power line to the car. Seems simple enough here. Depending on which one you got, you have anywhere between 3 and 5 steps in this thing. So that's it for the whole manual. Seems pretty simple. Let's get to it. All right, so right down here is our connector. Let me get some gloves on. It looks pretty dirty. I've cleaned this engine bay like 4 times now, but man, the amount of grease and grime in this engine bay is just wild. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get all of it ever, but I'm going to put some gloves on, get that thing rotated out. It's just a rotation out, pull it out, and swap it out. Really not too hard for a lot of these headlight changes, especially on these older trucks. I mean, look at this. I got tons of space in here. That's fantastic. All right, so that connector, that thing is pretty dirty. I'm gonna get that thing cleaned up here before I go any farther, because I don't want to mess anything up with this, especially when it comes to electrical. You want to make sure you keep that stuff as clean as possible. So let's get that thing cleaned up a little bit here. Look how dirty my hands are too. Wow. Reminds me I got to pick up some contact cleaner, but yeah, just from cleaning this plug here, that thing is really dirty. All right, so we're gonna pull off the boot in here now. I can't really get my camera in here because I got to put my whole hand in here to get in here. Let's pop this thing off. All right, and just like that, we have the old bulb out here. Not too bad, actually. This one definitely looks a lot newer. If you guys haven't seen the previous videos on this truck, this thing was decently well taken care of. I'm pretty surprised. I like to joke about this truck that anything that is cheap but difficult was not done on this truck. It seems like all the expensive stuff was done, like new radiator, things like that. But stuff like that was hard to do, like the fuel filter, that's hard to do, but only $10 was not done because it's quite hard to do. So yeah, I don't see a date code on this thing here, but this is just a standard little light bulb here. As you can see from the video, of me driving at night with this, it's just standard light bulb. Let's double check for compatibility here. That is going to be it. Awesome. That's exactly what I need to throw back in there. All right, so that was a little tricky getting the boot out, but here is basically the boot that protects, of course, the bulb itself from getting any weather, rain, junk in there. A little hard to get out the bottom, I will say. That was the tricky part. It was actually orientated like this in there. Bottom is kind of tricky in there. It is pretty tight actually in here. It's not terrible for most vehicles. You get a decent amount of workspace in there, which is nice. So you don't really need tools to do this. This is fantastic. So let's get this thing in, get this boot back on, and get her plugged in. Okay, a couple install tips on this. I want to make sure I'm doing this properly. This is the H4 here. So a couple of the tips on here say to keep the power cord facing downward towards the ground or perpendicular. And then, of course, that will allow your LED light to be in the 3 and 9 o'clock direction. Of course, it's spreading outward from your vehicle like that. So definitely going to keep that noted. And, of course, here you can make adjustments to it as well. So that's always good to know. All right, well, that actually was a super simple install. My biggest tip for you, and I was kind of fooling around with it a couple different angles here, was keep that power cord down. Remember, you're going to rotate that 45 degrees. So put the power cord basically, if you push it in there down, you want to have the power cord to this side. I'm on the passenger side right now, a little bit towards the left. So when you rotate it, it's going to be perfectly straight down. When you do that, then those two little retaining clips in there, you're going to push the bottom one down. And of course, the top one's going to wrap around and clip back into that little spot there. So really not too bad. It's pretty tight in there. I couldn't really get the camera in there to really see it because my hands are in the way, unfortunately. And then I'm assuming that this boot does not go back on because, of course, it's got the fan in the back. And then it's got the power cord coming out. So there's no way this would fit over it at all. It's kind of funny. It's got like threads in here, which is kind of funny, even though that's not how it's being held in there at all. I'm going to assume this is going to stay off here unless I find out some way to put it back on. But I don't see this going to go back on with the fan in there and, of course, the power cords. So let's do the driver's side now. So driver's side is actually going to be a lot easier to see. On the passenger side, you have the air box. Driver's side, you have the battery in here, which you can easily take out if you wanted to. I've got about the same amount of space. If you're doing the passenger side, I can probably easily do it here, no problem. Once you do it once, it comes super easy. So let me grab another one and we'll get that boot off, get this thing installed. I also want to clean that connector as well, too. This one looks pretty dirty as well. And of course, when you're ever doing this, watch your battery connections. You don't want to jump these connections here, especially your positive to anything else. So always be aware of that. Let's pull this side out of here. This one's actually quite a bit looser. There's that connection in there. Still really dirty, just like the other side, but it's a 25-year-old truck. So kind of, if it was super clean, I'd be like, what's going on here? So that's pretty much to be expected here. So this side should be a lot easier. It is a bit tighter on this side, I will say that, so it's probably going to be a hair trickier on the driver's side. Yeah, super dirty on this side. Let's get this entire boot off. That's what I should have done last time, was get the entire boot off first before trying to pull the bulb out. For some reason, the bottom is it's almost like it's like glued on the bottom or something. I know it's not, but it's real. There we go. Real tough on the bottom there. So there's that boot coming off. So once that boot is off, you can easily pull out the bulb. I don't know if you can see that in there. It's real tight. Let me get the right here. This little clip. That's just a little clip there. It's just going to unclip. Let's see here. Trying to see that. It's going to pop down, and then up. You're then going to just pop that over. And wow, this thing was barely held in there. And there's my old bulb there. Again, looks pretty new, pretty clean here. Trying to see if it's got I know these are more of a warm white than anything. They're not like a white, more of a warm style, which is very common. Looks very classic of the older style vehicles, of course. Okay, this one's going to be a hair trickier getting it in there, but once it's in there, should not be too much of an issue. So like I said before, you're going to want to put it in wired down, and you're going to want to probably put it in slightly towards the passenger side, so when you spin it, it kind of sticks in there. Your wire's going to be facing downward. Trying to keep the whole assembly here out of the way while I do this. It's going to come in at a bit of an angle on this side. You could make this simply quite a bit easier if you just took the battery out, but I want to do it without any tools or assistance here. There we go. I'm doing it one-handed here. And there we go. Yeah, this side, I will say, once you do it the first time, you know how everything snaps in, really not too bad at all. I did it pretty much one-handed on this side. Now to plug it in, it's going to be a hair tricky here. Yeah, it's pretty tight in here. So my only concern now is there's not really a good way to mount that controller box anywhere. Let me show you guys with the camera here on both sides. All right, so check that out. We got that in there. That's how much space we have to work with. Here's my hand in there. As you can see, not much to see while I was working in there, but there's your controller box just sitting there. I'm going to try to find a way to mount that somehow, or even zip tie it to that wire assembly there. It would be great. Of course, you can tell there's no way to get that boot back on because this is a fan up here, and then there is a power cable sticking down there. So putting that boot back on really isn't going to be an option, so that's just going to stay off. Let me show you guys the passenger side, how that looks. Obviously way more space in the past, well, not way more, but at least a good ½ inch, and then this is open here, which is cool. So again, I got that connected onto here. Where did the box go? Here's the box on this side. I want to get that tucked over there, just like that. Yeah, this is my windshield washer fluid reservoir is kind of toast on this thing. I need to get that redone, but that's pull off the fender kind of work there. So there we go. This is all in here. Let's see here. Yeah, I can always zip tie it right to this assembly here. That'll be pretty easy to do. So I can get those things clipped in. And then, of course, there is adjustments on this that you can make. So that is awesome. Here's the clipping in assembly there a bit better. You can see that there's one of these pegs that goes on this side on the bottom. And then this one is the one that you actually clip in. So it's actually a pretty nice connection there. It holds them in pretty solid. That's about it. Let's get this thing fired up and see how this thing looks. All right, and just like that, we got these things installed. Now, I'll see you guys back in just a second because we're going to try this now in the nighttime and see how this looks compared to how it did before. So, see you back in just a second. All right, guys, now let's run this test again, but let's see how the new headlights look. Oh, that is a huge difference here. Nice and bright, awesome. Let's go check out the brights. Am I already on? It's like my brights. Interesting there. I don't have a bright light, but that's probably my brights here, I think so. And then that's my regular, just headlights. That is awesome. Let's step out of the truck here and take a look at this. And I did not do any adjustments to these at all. This is purely just put them in and that's what it's at. So that's not bad for no adjustments. That's pretty good here.